What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Haunted Beards coverage of Shudder's 61 Days of Halloween. My name is Jake. Well, I'm a few days behind, but I finally got a chance to sit down and watch the latest release, Speak No Evil. More of a dramatic horror thriller from Denmark. I've got some thoughts, so let's get into it. So Speak No Evil tells the story of a Danish family who accept an invitation to the rural home of another couple they met on holiday, only to find their lives altered in unexpected and deeply horrifying ways. Now, in terms of the kind of vibes of this one, this is a setup that we have seen before, so it's not really going to break any ground in terms of narrative or story or anything like that. It's kind of a little bit of a twist on the home invasion type movie or sort of the unwelcomed or unwanted house guest type thing. Although this time it's not the unwelcomed ones who cause all the chaos, it's the people who invited the guests who cause all the chaos. And so it's kind of just a little bit of a twist there, but more or less we've seen this setup and this type of story done before. This is not really like a scary movie. There's not a whole lot here in terms of suspense, but the vibes that it does go for is really just kind of an overall sense of awkward uncomfortability. And it's really those moments that the film kind of thrives on just creating a really uncomfortable, awkward, sort of eerie, and just kind of off-putting vibe that slowly kind of builds until you kind of reach the climax at the end of the movie. One of the scenes that happens earlier on is you learn that the couple, the Danish couple, the wife is a vegetarian. They get to the house, and the husband there has made this huge like pork roast or something like that, and kind of almost alludes that it would be an insult for her not to try it. And so he basically kind of makes her eat a piece of the pork. And so it's just kind of little things like that, little moments that maybe you haven't necessarily experienced firsthand, but maybe have experienced some awkwardness in just sort of real life that you can kind of almost understand what they're going through and how they feel. And so I think for the most part, it's just kind of that layer of grounded realism that makes this overall pretty effective. Some of the other highlights for me are the performances. The Danish couple, the wife, her name is Louisa. I think her performance is pretty solid, and I think she's the standout in terms of the acting for me in the movie. I like what they do with the score. I think the score is used, it's kind of used in sort of an interesting kind of way. It's very, earlier on in the movie, it's kind of like foreshadowing. It's very kind of overbearing and brooding and dark and kind of like bombastic. It's kind of very loud and in your face, clearly sort of foreshadowing. A couple of the setups to using the musical score are almost kind of comical, because they're kind of so on the nose. Like one of the characters says as they're getting ready to leave, what's the worst that could happen? And then, bah, you're hit with this dark, menacing, brooding score, right? And another one is a character says like something like, oh, I'm sure it's going to be a lovely weekend. And then, bah, right? And so it's kind of almost this comedic sort of setup to this, again, sort of brooding foreshadowing of just bad stuff to come. But I thought it stuck out, and I thought overall it was used pretty well. So there was a handful of things in this movie that I did like and appreciate. However, I kind of have one sort of major complaint and negative aspect to this that unfortunately kind of almost derailed and ruined this thing for me, and that is the husband and how they handle his character of Bjorn. And what's so frustrating about him is he has got to be one of the dumbest and just weakest men that I have seen in a horror movie in recent memory. There were a handful of the times in this movie where there's stuff happening and I just wanted to like yell at the screen and be like, dude, grow a pair and be a man and do something. But he just doesn't do anything. And it's just so frustrating because he's just this like weak, pathetic excuse for a guy. There's a point about half an hour into this movie where something happens and the couple leaves to go to dinner. Both of the couples leave to go to dinner. And at that point, if it was me, I'm out. I'm leaving. I'm packing my bags. We're getting in the car. We're headed out the road. But the movie goes on for another hour, and they try to work in a scene where they try to leave, but then they end up having to come back, and it just kind of lost me because there was just a few points I was like, dude, you just got to leave. Like, why are you still there? Like, just get out of there. And again, there was just kind of that point to where I wanted to just grab this guy by the collar and shake him and be like, dude, get your family out of this house but he just didn't. And so it was just, there was a handful of moments that I just found incredibly frustrating. Later on, there's a scene about an hour into the movie that is more or less a scene of child abuse. It's certainly emotional child abuse. And the couple just, sees it happens right in front of them, and they still decide to stay in the house. And again, I'm just like guys, like, what are you doing? It just, at that point, I was like, why in the world, under any circumstance, like, first of all, at least call the police or something. But like, why you still choosing to stay in that home is just beyond me. There's a point in the movie, and I'm going to give you a quote out of the movie towards the end of it. It's not going to give away any spoilers specifically, but if you want to just completely miss it, jump ahead 10 seconds. But Bjorn asks the Dutch guy, he says, why are you doing this to me? And he just simply says, because you let me. And it's just like, yeah, you kind of did. And it's like you're kind of sort of at fault here because you're stupid and you're weak. And it's like, this is what happens. And again, it's just one of those things where I was just so frustrated and irritated with this guy. Now, I want to get into the end. I'm not going to get into any spoilers at all, but I do want to just give you a couple little thoughts. I will say I think the last 15 minutes are pretty effective, really disturbing, certainly memorable, just very bleak and depressing. And I kind of got to give them maybe a little bit of credit for just actually going there. There's a scene where I'll just say something happens that I kind of was like, holy cow, they went there. So that was certainly kind of a surprising and shocking moment, which, I mean, if you're watching a horror movie, you want those. At least I would think you do. And so I got to give them at least a little bit of credit there for kind of getting that sort of reaction out of me. And I do think the ending is a bit of a saving grace, though. As I said, it is memorable. Overall, though, this is just a one and done kind of movie for me. I don't really have any desire or need to return to this. There are some elements to it that I think are pretty well, but just the character specifically of Bjorn and his character and his decisions and borderline ruin this thing for me. And so as far as like a recommendation, this is just kind of a viewer discretion advised, I guess, right? Like if you can handle some of the stupid decision making and weak characters, if that doesn't bother you and you're kind of more tuning in for just sort of the uncomfortable vibes, I think you'll be satisfied and will enjoy your time. And I think you'll at least remember the ending for a while, like I said. So for me personally, though, I think I'm probably going to be, I'm going to go like maybe a 5.5. Maybe I'll go a little more generous, maybe a 6 out of 10 for me for Speak No Evil. So those are my thoughts. Hit me up down below if you've seen this thing. Let me know what your thoughts are, what you liked, what you didn't like. I would love to hear from you. So that's all I got for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you like videos like this, that is what I do on The Haunted Beard. It is all horror and thriller movie content coming at you. So hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll see you next time on The Haunted Beard.